So just to introduce myself, already said, my name is Tim. This was me fresh out of uni. Check out the long hair. It was somewhere down to here. So where I started out was basically working for American Express, so it's a credit card company, and it deals with lots of affluent rich people. And I was a BA, I was a project manager, I was a engineer. I used to actually write code, and I was pretty much everything under the sun. And the one thing I realized is I don't like to be any one of those things. I just like to solve problems. And what I learned was actually what I was doing was product management. It's just it wasn't a thing back then. So at Amex, I kind of became a product manager. I looked after their mobile app. I moved out to New York, looked after their website, moved out to Arizona, did some of that good stuff called Agile Transformation. And yeah, love product management. And then a few years on, I joined a company called Capital One. So still in finance, still with credit cards, slightly dull soul strength, and not in line with my moral purpose, but I learned lots of cool stuff, and fintechs are definitely in vogue right now. As my career progressed, my hairline seemed to recede. I got even shorter hair. And then here I am today, 8 years later, and I've gone, yeah, whole hog, shaved my head for you guys. I'm just conscious that if anyone looked at my bio, they clicked my LinkedIn, and they probably saw this guy here, and then they saw me looking like this, and they're like, is that the dude that's presenting today? Every time I went for a job interview, people kept saying, you're not the dude from LinkedIn. I'm like, I really am. I just had a Britney moment. And where I am today is I work for a company called RB. You'll not have heard of them, but you'll use something they make. So they make Durex, they make drugs, they make Nurofen. They're like Procter & Gamble or GSK. I saw a giggle when I said Durex. That was me in my first week. User testing is very different. Yeah, I can assure you. True story, in my first week, I actually tripped over a bin full of rubber willies. And it was just there in the office. It's just a normal thing to have lying around when you make Durex. So, without going completely off piste and lowering the tone, I'm going to talk you through, say, 10 ways to ruin your product. It's clickbait. You could argue that this presentation has 10 general good things to do if you're a product manager to make awesome products. But I like to be simple. So, number one, don't use your product. So, one of the things that I've seen in product management is people work on products that they don't actually have access to, so they aren't eligible for it, they don't download it, they can't afford it. I think as a product manager, it's essential to use your product, especially how you use your product. So a good example for me was, I was working for one of these supermarkets, so it's basically an aggregator where you go through, you fill in those questions, and they give you insurance products, they give you loan recommendations, and I went through their journey, and I was doing a heuristic review for them. So they wanted me to basically critique their UX and see what could be done better. I found about 6 things wrong at first pass. I went through 2, 3, 4 times. And I was like, crap, like, I've actually only got 6 recommendations I can make. Like, I feel like I'm duping them out of their money. I went through 36 times in total. And through being a power user, I ended up finding about 150 defects. But it was just little stuff that when you don't interact with your product constantly, you kind of like overlook it. So little things like I had to select an option and click done. Why not just move to the next screen when I selected an option? When I landed on pages, it didn't auto-cursor, so I had to tap into the text field. Keyboards, they didn't have the accessory, so I couldn't tap between text fields. I had to tap into which one. And the more you use your products, the more you start to kind of see these little nitpicky things that actually, when there's a critical mass of them, they result in quite a shitty experience. So my one advice is power use your products. In the same vein, if you don't use your products, by default, your customers become your kind of quality assurance team. You never want to be in a position whereby your customers are calling out of your defects on public forums, on your app store. You want to be using your product every day, finding stuff. And also, I kind of honestly feel like it's quite possible to not use your product, but still know how it works, still know how it looks. After all, you write the requirements, you're the product manager or the product owner for that app, for that website, but I don't think you can know how it feels. And what I mean by feels is, when we get demos as product owners from our engineering team, sometimes we just say, oh yeah, it looks good, it kind of looks like designs, show them how it works. They show us, we're like, yeah, it does all the things in the acceptance criteria, but you don't know how it feels, you don't know how it feels to interact with it. A good example is Capital One. So credit cards. We basically said to consumers, this is what you owe us, and this is what you need to pay us by. And we're like, it's simple, it looks good, users will have no problem. But we got loads of people calling in. They were like, what are the 3 different options? It's like, why is one better than the other? When you say pay me by the 23rd, do you mean before the 23rd? Can I pay you on the day of the 23rd? They were confused, they were worried. After they made the payments, they were kind of ringing us, checking if it went through, because our app wasn't updated to reflect the payments. And the app was working fine. It was built per spec, everything was on point, but we hadn't actually used it, so kind of spoke to our users to ask them how it feels. And throughout the kind of like payment journey, they were experiencing confusion, anxiety. So yeah, use your products all the time. My second top tip. So if I said to you guys in the next 60 seconds, I want you to kind of turn to each other and make the other person happy or everyone in this room happy, it'd probably get really awkward really quickly, so I'm not going to do that. But it is an exercise that I do when I run sprints. And the kind of like purpose of the exercise is you can't make people happy. You don't know what they like, you don't know what their preferences are, you don't know what their dislikes are, you don't know nothing about them, you never observe that. And all we can do is make assumptions about what makes people in this room happy. And I think for me, this is why you need to speak to users, because until you speak to a user, all you've got is assumptions about that user. Also, why I think it's super important to kind of interact with your users is quantitate's really good. It answers the how many, how often, how much, but it doesn't answer kind of the question, which is why do people do what they do. The other kind of like thing I'm super passionate about is just get out of the office. So one of the things that we do when we feel like we're being good product managers is we do speak to customers and we get them in, we sit them in front of us, we kind of interview them, we show them some prototypes. That's awesome product management, it really is, but it's all very kind of artificial and simulated. I think there's something to be said for getting out there and being inside a user's context, whether it's guerrilla testing in a Starbucks, whether it's going and sitting in their houses. And actually it's something that Capital One I will shout out about. They're very good at going and sitting in people's houses, because Capital One kind of provide credit cards for the kind of people in the country that are in the bottom 1% in terms of financial literacy, in terms of their affordability. A lot of these customers are in debt, they've been bankrupt before, and we can't assimilate ourselves with them. We need to go and sit with them because we've never been in these positions, we can't empathise. So get yourself out there, put yourself in your user's context. Oh God, I'm going slow. The third one is don't see yourself in tech and UX. So there's quite a few product managers that I speak to that are like, oh, I don't give a crap about the tech, or I'm not concerned with design, that's not my job. To be honest, I think you have to be if you want to be relevant. So I think that a lot of product managers are kind of like this, right? Which is what I would call pie-shaped. We're really good at one thing. We have really good understanding about the business. We know what good UX looks like. We're quite technical. And it's quite a bit of product managers that are probably like me, which is generalists. We dabble in all things. We're good at collaborating with people who are experts in tech, design, but we're not experts ourselves. And I think that we really need to kind of be pushing ourselves to be more T-shaped. So what I mean by that is definitely be generalists, have a breadth of experience, have the capacity to collaborate across multiple disciplines. But also think about how can you raise your game in each of those disciplines, or how can you specialize in one. Because I think that traditionally when we talk about developers, we think of them as I-shaped people. So the geeks, they're very technical, they can't interact with customers, they don't get the business. And kind of like those stereotypes are changing. I work with a lot of engineers, a lot of designers that aren't that stereotype. They're people that are very savvy, they understand the business, they know what good design looks like. I think as product managers, we need to make sure that we're still super relevant. Otherwise, yeah, what value will we bring to our teams? So why consider yourself in tech and UX? Well, firstly, your skill set is going to be more well-rounded. The more well-rounded your skill set, the better your rationalizations, your product decisions, your reasoning skills. Also, you can present a stronger challenge, provide more constructive feedback, and leave less to assumption. And what I mean by that is, designers, when they demo something or you're co-creating with them, if you say stuff to them like, oh, can you make it pop more? It it's the most bullshit expression you can say to a designer. They want constructive criticism. They want you to be able to say, right, I think your affordances are a bit lame, and we can probably kind of amplify them and make them a bit more prominent. They want you to kind of understand their domain in a way that actually when you have an interaction, they're learning something from you, they're not just teaching you things. And yeah, we've already heard from Martin Eriksson, but I think that actually something he said a few years back sums it up pretty well. So as product managers, we must be experienced in at least one. And when he says at least one, he means the kind of, you know, the Venn diagram, which is UX, business, technology, and we're at the center of that. So he thinks that product managers need to be experienced in at least one, passionate about all three, conversant in all three too. And I'm fully behind him on this one. Otherwise, we become conduits, and there's no value in being conduits. All good product managers know this to be true. So kind of one way to be a poopy product manager is to start with a solution, especially one that you're particularly anchored to. If it doesn't solve a problem, it's a solution that people don't need. It's a solution without a problem. One of the things that I also see a lot as well is that we need to get into habits as product managers of asking why. So we all have hippos, like high-to-make person's opinion, and you know, leadership would say, I need this feature by then, or I need you to kind of build this thing for me. We need to kind of get into the habit of just always asking why. And also, like, we need to kind of detach ourselves from the things that we're passionate about. We can't start with a solution and craft a business case around it. We need to decouple data, analysis, insights from the things that we want to do. I've actually got a good example of this, which is when I worked for American Express, we had a guy there that was obsessed with the idea of being able to pay with tweets. So you could tweet, buy an Xbox, and you would get an Xbox delivered, it would be linked to a credit card. And he thought it was like revolutionary. It's where finance intersects with social media. And we went along with it. They spent about a year building it, they launched it, and obviously it was a complete flop. We spent millions on this thing. I remember like the pride when he showed me he bought an Xbox by tweeting, get me an Xbox. And he was just this dude here. He just thought it was like the coolest thing in the world. But who the hell wants to basically have their transaction history on his website? What's easier about tweeting than just going to kind of the Microsoft websites? What do you want? Xbox One, Xbox One S, Xbox 1 terabytes? And it was absolutely littered with things, but we never let it die because we became attached to the solution. And actually, what this slide here is this image. It's called a product canvas or a lead canvas. And it's actually a great tool for just kind of making yourself think about what's the problem solving, what is our USP, who are we solving it for. So if you haven't used this before, I highly recommend checking it out. Don't pigeonhole your focus, and what I mean by this is, and I've been guilty myself, a lot of product managers say to you, I'm a product strategist, I don't bother myself with the delivery and getting involved with scrum teams. Others say, oh yeah, I'm a product deliverer, like I get shit into market, I don't worry about strategy. And I don't think you can pigeonhole yourself as being mutually exclusive or in one camp. You really need to kind of be cognizant of all aspects of products. And I think this Venn diagram sums it up very well. You can focus on building the right thing, and you can get into market fast, but it could just be a quick start. So it's just something that is awesome. You put it into market, but you haven't executed it very well, and it dies to death. Again, you could focus on building something really, really well and build it fast, but it could be what we call a quick shit. So it's just something that no one gives a crap about. Like, you've just built something that's glorious, really fast, but it's not solving a problem. And again, you could do what we've always been told we need to do as product managers, which is solve a problem and build the right thing, and then build that thing right. If you don't move at pace, you're going to miss market opportunities. And I know it's like a very crude dumbing down, but I think the concept here is, as product managers, concern yourself with strategy, concern yourself with delivery, concern yourself with being nimble and agile. This might sound a bit weird, but don't be a perfectionist. And what I mean by that is, like, done is better than perfect. So some of us work on things because we have this like nirvana in our head of what it should be, how it should look to the consumer, and we dedicate all of our time to kind of working towards that nirvana. But what customers really want is they want you to get things into their hands as soon as it's of value to them. And also, I'm quite big on this, which is, it's the law of diminishing returns. So 80% of the utility of most things tends to come from 20% of your effort. So just solving the problem, giving something that people need, will get you here. The rest of your time is going to be the bells and whistles. It's going to be the finessing. That stuff's important, but you need to make sure that you get a healthy balance between your return on investments and the time you put into a product. And I've already mentioned this, but chasing the one is not cool if you're not shipping. So the kind of project A here, they're working on it for 9 months, and then when they go live, they're shipping part of the value. It's quite a full fat feature or a product. Whereas project B, they ship after 3 months. They don't deliver as much value, but they get that value into consumers' hands earlier, and it delivers more value over time. So the kind of sentiment here is, as soon as something's ready for a consumer, you can start offering utility value, get it into their hands. Right. Ignore established patterns. So what I mean by this is, when you're thinking about design products, don't try and be different and cool just for the sake of it. So I develop apps in my spare time, and most projects or products that I work on are mobile apps. And people kind of always just start building everything custom, but you've got so many great design conventions and guidelines. You've got the Google Material Design Library, you've got Apple's Human Interface Guidelines. Most websites out there are built using Bootstrap. They're built using these things for a reason, which is these design libraries, these pattern libraries are good. It's what users are comfortable with, it's what they're used to interacting with. And also they don't constrain you, they allow you to kind of like customize within the framework. This is the key sentiment to this slide, which is just don't compromise on usability for the sake of looking good. So there was a social media app about 8 years ago, I think, called Platt. I loved it, but it's because I was stupid and I thought it looked really cool. But everything about it's just stupid. You've got your main CTA in the bottom left, which is furthest away from the farm. Every time you want to access anything you want to use, it's this fancy animation that spirals out. It takes like 3 seconds to happen. Yeah, it just really, really irritating design. It looked beautiful. It was super slick. The interaction design was like spot on, but yeah, if it's not usable and it dies shortly after it got launched, then what good is it? Whereas this is a different example. So this is Stripe. So this is fancy, sexy UI interaction design, but this interaction design adds value. It actually improves usability, it doesn't detract from it. And I think that's the key sentiment here. Don't build Norman doors. So Norman Door, it's Nielsen Norman, which is a UX consultancy. They're quite famous for kind of, providing best-in-class heuristics for what good design looks like. And a Norman door is basically any button or element that doesn't give you a hint how to use it. So Google Translate was quite bad. It had this weird icon and no one really knew what it was. Is it snake or a danger noodle, I think they call them now? Is it like a squiggly line? Is it something you can draw with? It is that. You can tap it, you can basically draw kind of like Japanese symbols and things like that, which you can get translated, but it's not intuitive. Like, have text or maybe have a pencil or something that people are used to. If you want, actually, there's a project called Now Project, which is worth looking at. It's almost this universal library of like icons and assets and things that convey messages in a way that's globally recognized. Conscious of time. Number 8, don't misinterpret the data. I'm not a data scientist by any means. I'm pretty crappy at maths, if I'm being honest. But I mean, I think the standout point here is just don't measure meaningless shit. So one example, I worked for a financial service company. It's like most of my career I worked for financial services companies. But what we used to measure was we wanted to reduce calls. So we measured how many people called us. And we were like, right, we need to get the number down. Calls cost us money. We don't want people calling our call centers. So we did things that were like baffling, like make the wait time longer. They hope that people drop off. I know, it's tragic. We did all of this to boost up. We had that really complex routing through the kind of like VR system so that people didn't get through and they got in these infinite loops. And we were measuring the wrong thing. We were just trying to drive the number down for the sake of driving the number down. the thing we should have been focused on is how do we help customers to self-serve and self-solve their problems. And then we would have looked at the problem from a different angle, but we were just measuring the wrong stuff and we were optimizing for the wrong thing. That's quite an extreme example. I imagine you all work for much more morally, less morally bankrupt companies than I have. Don't let your bias affect your data analysis. So I think the key here is, if you touch your data long enough, you can pretty much make it say anything you want it to say. And this links back to kind of don't get attached to a solution. Decouple your data analysis and your biases from kind of the solution. And I included this one just because we did a lot of this in my old job. We used to mistake or infer causation and correlation, and they're completely different things. Just to kind of illustrate the point, the number of people who drowned by falling into a swimming pool correlates very well with the number of films that Nicolas Cage has been in. This is completely meaningless data, it doesn't mean shit. The correlation is strong, but there is no relationship. And I think as product managers, I'm definitely guilty of seeing relationships in data because I want to see relationships in data versus them actually existing. Right, I'm going to go on for about 3 minutes, then give you guys some time for questions. So the other kind of way to be a bad product manager is by staying still and sticking around. So this one might feel a little bit off topic, but a product is only as good as the people behind it. And the people behind a product are only as good as the kind of diversity of their skills, their experiences, the companies they've worked for, and the things that they've gotten themselves involved in. And also they're only as good as kind of the investment that they make in their own personal development. So I think the kind of sentiment here is your products truly are proportional to kind of like how much you as an individual invest in yourself, you as your team invest in yourself, and the people behind them. So be selfish from time to time, like afford yourself to learn new skills, to keep current, to get involved in UX and tech. And final one, again, all good product managers like you guys in the room will know a good way to run your products is just by out testing and learning. So test early, test when it's less costly to adapt, to make changes, prototype, and also test iteratively. So don't just work on the product, go live, do some kind of like UAT or QA before it goes live. Test the concept yourself, like does the proposition actually make sense? Test your prototypes, is it usable? Is there any glaring usability problems? Test variants of the solution, multivariant test, A/B test, multi-on-bounded test, whatever it is, test. And that's me.